Good afternoon, guys. Welcome to Whiskey Wednesday. Here, Spirits Guide coming to you guys live. Hopefully we're live on the Wachusett Wine and Spirits page as well. Let's find out. See where we're at here. Yeah, talk amongst yourselves while I check into this. Are we live on Wachusett Wine and Spirits? We are live, happening right now on Wachusett Wine and Spirits. Awesome. So welcome viewers on both the Wachusett Wine and Spirits page and the Spirits Guide page. Thank you so much for being here. It is Whiskey Wednesday. I know we're in January. Let me get these out of the way. Not that anybody wants a better shot of this mug, but we'll get those out of the way for now. But we're already thinking ahead. Tonight we start to work towards March Madness. If you guys were here with us from the beginning, I know I talked about it last night and last week, but where this whole thing sort of started, where we really got going, where we really got our feet underneath us, was when we did our Bourbon Bracket Challenge last year. Kind of all the COVID craziness really started to set in. So we started going live. You guys started responding, and we've been going ever since. So let's see where we're at right now. Awesome. So we've gone almost a full year now. We want to be better prepared and start gearing up for March Madness. So last year it was a Bourbon Bracket Challenge of the best bourbons we had available at Wachusett Wine and Spirits under the price point of $35. That was sort of our wheelhouse number. I feel like $35 is where most of us feel comfortable buying that bottle all the time. Once you start creeping over that, they become a little bit more special bottlings. So $35 is sort of the sweet spot. We had to have a cutoff somewhere, so $35 is where it was. The other criteria was it had to be available currently and readily. So that eliminated store picks, like our Elijah Craig, our Eagle Rare, our Larceny, and that will stay the same this year. No store picks because they're not readily available, and I can't guarantee their availability long term. What else do we have for criteria? Oh, well, like for instance tonight, it will only be one product per brand. So Ezra Brooks Bourbon is great. Ezra Brooks Rye is great. And now that we've opened it up to bourbon, rye, blended, single malts, whatever, we need to kind of narrow it down. So for the next 5 or 6 weeks leading into March, we're going to be tasting off some of these things within brands, sort of like a tournament sort of play-in game or conference championships. This is definitely a mid-major conference. But Luxco, which owns Lux Road Distillers, who brings us this. We'll talk a little bit more about Ezra in a second. What else do we have with the tournament? We're going to try to get it more interactive this year. We're going to give away prizes for people who can guess brackets. Anybody who wants to come guest taste with me, certainly reach out to me, and we'll see what we can work out. Corey is going to be doing a lot of the tastings with me. Hopefully you guys remember Corey from our Gin Challenge and our Brandy series. He's coming back with me to do the whiskey series. So it's going to be the best American whiskeys under $35, currently available at Wachusett Wine and Spirits. And there may be some last-minute changes as well. Who knows, there may be a new product that shows up in the future. Let me grab my notes to kind of give you guys a little idea of what we've got in store for whiskeys. There's definitely some automatic bids that are in. I know for a fact Hirsch is going to be in that tournament. Old Granddad Bottled and Bond, which was last year's winner, they're already in. Beyond that, everything is kind of open. We're going to get a definite, guaranteed, locked-in bid tonight when we taste Ezra Brooks Bourbon against Ezra Brooks Rye. What else do we have for announcements? Oh, yeah. I was talking to our web people, Ken. Thank you for stopping by yesterday. It was great to kind of chat with you and actually get to meet you in person. Starting next month on our website, we're going to be doing blogs, or I'm going to be doing blogs that will coincide with the whiskeys that we taste on Whiskey Wednesday. And not only will it give you guys a little bit more content, something to check out on our website, but it will provide links directly to those products on our online store as well. So if you want to buy things online, pay for it online, and pick it up curbside without having to come in the store, you're going to get great links to those products. Hey Peter, glad to see you here. Yeah, we're going to have some fun with the games. So excited about the blog postings that are coming up, and how we're going to be able to utilize that. I talked to Michael today. We're definitely getting some Wachusett Wine and Spirits branded Glencairn glasses. We're going to try to utilize those with the tastings as well. We're going to have them for sale for you guys. We're going to have some for giveaways for people who get involved in the brackets as well. So let's get into it. What do we get tonight? We've got Ezra Brooks Rye, Ezra Brooks Bourbon. Going head to head, I'm going to decide which one I like better, which one I think can go the distance, which one earns that automatic bid into the 16 whiskey bracket challenge. Here's a little history on Ezra Brooks. Kind of a fascinating brand, and when it comes to whiskey, aren't we all suckers for history and stories, and we don't even care if they're true or not. We just like a good story. I think that's part of what makes American whiskey, especially bourbon, so appealing. Is we're just suckers for stories and nostalgia, even if sometimes it didn't actually exist. So here's the deal with Ezra Brooks. This was created in the 1950s, I believe. At the top of my head, I forget the gentleman who was behind the brand, but it was sourced from the Hoffman Distillery, and it was marketed as, the best little distillery in Kentucky. It was created to compete with Jack Daniels. They were so competitive with Jack Daniels that they designed the bottle, so much of the labeling, so much of the marketing, not only resembled Jack Daniels, but some of it was literally word for word, note for note, placement for placement, label for label, Jack Daniels. To the point where Jack Daniels sued them in the late 1950s or 1960s for copyright infringement. Now, even before we get into that, some fascinating little things. The Hoffman Distillery was owned by the Rippey family. The Rippey family is the family that actually started Wild Turkey Bourbon, and later on rye. So there's some interesting sort of 6 degrees of separation there with them and Wild Turkey. Again, the Rippey family owned the Hoffman Distillery. The Hoffman Distillery, after the Rippeys sold it, would end up in the hands of Julian Van Winkle, grandson of Pappy Van Winkle, when he was trying to get in business after his father had sold the Stitzel Weller Distillery. That's what Julian used his inheritance to buy. And it was bottling there with sourced whiskey that he created actually the Pappy Van Winkle line of whiskeys. A lot of people think that Pappy Van Winkle actually created Pappy Van Winkle. He didn't. His grandson created a brand, named it after his grandfather, Pappy Van Winkle. And he operated out of the Hoffman Distillery before going to another distillery and now finally ending up at Buffalo Trace. So you're talking some interesting 6 degrees of separation. There's a link between Ezra Brooks and Buffalo Trace. There's a link between Ezra Brooks and Pappy. There's a link between Ezra Brooks and Wild Turkey. After the person who owned it, who was sourcing it from Hoffman's, he sold the brand, and it kind of changed hands through United Distillers, which is a historic sort of distilling group. The Medley family, which is a big family in Kentucky bourbon. At one point, I believe Jim Beam owned the brand. And eventually, Ezra Brooks would get sold to Heaven Hill down in Bardstown. Now, in 1993, Heaven Hill sold Ezra Brooks to Luxco, which is a company out of St. Louis, that were whiskey sort of brokers, which was very common in the business. Lux Co. at that time was very serious about taking a big position in the Kentucky bourbon industry, in the whiskey world in general. Lux Co. has now started Lux Row Distillers, which is down in Bardstown, where they've started to make their own juice. The deal with Ezra Brooks when it was sold to Lux Co. is that Heaven Hill would keep producing the whiskey for them until they could make their own. So as of right now, this bourbon, more than likely 99% true, is coming out of Heaven Hill until their juice is ready from their own distillery. What else does Lux Row or Lux Co. own or contribute to the whiskey world? Maybe one of my favorite brands, Rebel Yell, comes out of Lux Row Distillers or Lux Co. Yellowstone, who, by the way, we're doing a barrel pick. We're getting a single barrel of Yellowstone and Rebel Yell. Those samples are on their way. We're going to show you guys how we do those barrel picks, but we're doing a barrel pick of Rebel Yell and Yellowstone. That shows how much, as a store, we believe in the Lux Co. and Lux Row brands. New just in the last year or so, Davies County is another brand that comes out of Lux Row. Minor Case Rye. If you haven't discovered Minor Case Rye, oh, Peter Thomas, Billboard advertising the Ezra Brooks brand, yes, was featured in the Sting, absolutely. Which is interesting because I think the original Sting came out in 1934. But the brand wouldn't be developed until the 1950s. But that is a fun little fact that it was in the Sting as well. It popped up in another movie somewhere too. What else does Lux Row put out? We got Yellowstone, Rebel Yell, Davies County, David Nicholson, which is going to be another set of whiskeys we're going to taste against each other, which has another Pappy tie-in. Minor Case, and the Blood Oath, which are rare, limited releases as well. So if you're wondering who this Lux Row or Lux Co. is, let's look at some kind of special allocated whiskeys that they put out. The Old Ezra, which somebody had named best whiskey in the world a few years back. Yellowstone Special Select, another once-a-year limited allocated release. Rebel Yell Single Barrel 10-year allocated limited release. All these whiskeys, the Blood Oath, Yellowstone, Rebel Yell. Yeah, great whiskeys coming out of Lux Row. They need to be considered amongst the big boys in the whiskey world down there. Now, a few years ago, they added rye to their lineup as rye was becoming more and more popular. Much like everybody, they didn't really have a lot of rye stock sitting around. So I'm going to say that this comes from, because if you read the label carefully, you can get a lot of information, distilled and aged in Indiana. So I'm going to say probably MGP, made, aged there, shipped down to Kentucky, where it was bottled at Lux Row. So they're bottling it themselves, but it was aged and distilled there. I'm going to say that the bourbon is at least 4 years old, because there is no age statement on the bottle. And if there's no age statement on a bottle that says Kentucky bourbon, it has to be at least 4 years. Yeah, and it says Kentucky straight bourbon. So it means it's been aged in Kentucky, it's been made in Kentucky. But if it's not at least 4 years old, they have to put the age statement on it. And because there's no age statement, it's got to be at least 4. This is a 2-year or minimum 2-year rye. What else do we know about these? Oh yeah, so as far as comparisons to Jack Daniels, years ago Jack lowered their proof to 80. Ezra Brooks is still bottled at an honest 90 proof, 45% alcohol. And yeah, so is the rye, the 90s, right there prominent, right there in the front, 90 being a great proof point for body. And by the way, I've just read recently that Ezra Brooks, I believe this year, is releasing Ezra Brooks 99. So it's going to be a Kentucky straight bourbon at 99 proof. Pretty excited for that, knowing how much we love our Ezra Brooks here. It's sort of a fun little fact for anybody out there who loves Bloody Marys. If you want to switch it up from vodka, you want to add a little flavor to your Bloody Mary, Ezra Brooks Rye will just be a game changer. It's going to make add a whole ton of flavor to your Bloody Marys. Oh, by the way, they're both under $20 for a $7.50. You can't go wrong with this. There's a reason these two are staff favorites. Under $20, 90 proof, delicious, Lux Row. It's hitting all the buttons. It may not be the one you display out front next to the Blood Oath, but these make great sort of house whiskeys to have around. Like I always say, you don't feel bad about killing it, because it's not that hard to replace it for the price. Where are we at? All right. Well, we're sticking live on Wachusett Wine and Spirits. But, per our rules of our Whiskey Bracket Challenge, only one product per brand is allowed in. So it is my job, and sometimes my job isn't so bad. My job today, for you, is to decide between the Ezra Brooks Bourbon and the Ezra Brooks Rye, which one gets that automatic bid into our 16 Whiskey Tournament Challenge to crown what the best whiskey under $35 is at Wachusett Wine and Spirits. Gotta say, sometimes it's not so bad. Da, da, da. Da, 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 da. Awesome. Loving what we're doing here. Having so much fun. Thank you guys so much for being here. Alright. To give this a little taste, Ezra Brooks Bourbon. Mash bills. Mash bills. Just to kind of give you an idea of where we're at. 78% corn, 10% rye, 12% barley. Pretty standard. That's, I believe that's actually the Heaven Hill sort of standard mash bill. It also goes to show that even though it's made by Heaven Hill, I'm pretty sure that's the same mash bill as Evan Williams. It doesn't smell or taste like Evan Williams at all. So depending on where you are in the rick house, which rick house you're in, it all makes a difference. It's good color. Right where you want it to be for 4 years. Golden brown. There's a flavor to me that I always equate to like vanilla frosting. There's a nice sweetness, probably from that really high corn content and that really low rye content. Great mouthfeel. This, to me, makes a great mixer. It's really simple to just sip straight up like that. Heck, if you're outside shoveling and you need to do a quick shot, this is a perfect whiskey for that. For 90 proof, there's no heat going down. Great body. Coats the glass really, really nicely. Yeah. Lots of vanilla. Little oak, little toasty, simple, easy to drink. Nothing wrong with that at all. Love it. Now the rye, and in full disclosure, I am in love with the rye. I think we sell more Ezra Brooks rye than maybe anybody in the state. We certainly sell more Ezra Brooks in the nips, which is great. This comes in 50 mLs nips. Again, if you're out shoveling, plowing, snow blowing, whatever you're doing in the winter, you need to keep a few nips around. We have this available in 50 mLs. Now it's got a big, sweet, caramel, spicy nose to it. What was surprising to me when I was doing some research for this, because I've drank a lot of this, either Bloody Marys, straight up, mixed in ginger ale or Coke. It makes a great mixer. Both of these do. By the way, anybody who thinks it's sacrilege to blend whiskey with cola, I always go back to the Jimmy Russell story when somebody asked him, "What do you think about people pouring Wild Turkey and cola together?" He said, "It's fine if they do. They're going to have the best damn whiskey and cola they've ever had." So if Jimmy Russell doesn't have a problem with mixing bourbon and cola, who are any of us to say otherwise? In reading Pappyland, reading how Julian Van Winkle likes to drink his Pappy on the rocks with a lemon twist. If that's how the big guy drinks it, who are we to question how anybody drinks their whiskey? The more important thing is you're drinking whiskey and you're drinking it with friends and other people. So the shocker with this, check my notes, 51% rye, 45% corn, 4% barley, which is definitely not the signature MGP rye recipe, not the Greg Metz recipe. But for the big spice it has, and those big caramel notes, I was surprised that it was barely legal rye, just over the minimum, which is 50%. It's got that hint of menthol that I sometimes pick up in rye. Yeah, sweet, spicy, almost like some baked apple, little hints of caramel, a little bit of menthol in the finish. That is delicious. Yeah. And possibly, Kevin, yes. I'm not sure what we're smoking. I'm not opposed to smoking just about anything, but the answer is yes. So, now we're in decision time. Which one of these two makes the whiskey bracket challenge? As much as I love the bourbon, I think the rye takes it. So there it is. Automatic tournament bid earned. First one in, Ezra Brooks Rye, 90 proof, under 20 bucks. Winner, winner. Great for shots, great for sipping, great for Bloody Marys. I cannot stress that enough. Sunday, Bloody Sunday, with Ezra Brooks Rye. By the way, the fun part with this whiskey bracket tournament that we're doing is we're going to rate them. The number 1 seed will be the most expensive. The number 16 seed will be the least expensive. And I seed them that way to kind of show people that just because you pay more for a bottle of whiskey doesn't always mean that it's better. Both of the ones, the 3 that were actually in the finals last year were all under 30 bucks. All the top seeds were knocked out almost immediately. So buying whiskey strictly on price point can sometimes get you a great bottle of whiskey, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you can't find a great bottle of whiskey for less money Yeah. So there we have it. First automatic bid, Ezra Brooks, Rye, going into the tournament. Not even going to say that I'm surprised there. So we are going to wrap it up from here. Join us next Wednesday for Whiskey Wednesday as we add another selection to our tournament bracket, where we're going to be tasting the Redemption Rye against the Redemption High Rye Bourbon. Both great bottles of whiskey. I've had them both in the past. But again, only one product per brand. We're going to see which Redemption makes it into the tournament next week. The following week, we're either going to be doing David Nicholson or hopefully Redwood Empire. We'll see. So that'll be the next 3 weeks. Redemption, Redwood Empire, David Nicholson, and then we'll fill out that bracket. And then come March, let the games begin. So there it is. If you guys have any questions, thoughts, concerns, feel free to email me, rich@wachusett.liquors.com, or put the question in the comments section. Yeah, I'm going to wrap it up from there. Talk to you guys soon. Thank you guys so much for being there. Appreciate you all. Spirits Guide people, again, if you're watching, thank you. I'm humbled every time you're out there. I love you all. Cheers. See you next week.